Hi, and welcome to Beyond the Falls podcast. Today I've got Todd Schultz with River Falls State Bank. So thanks for coming, Todd, and
thanks, Sarah. Thanks
taking time out of your day to join us today.
Yeah.
I like to start out by asking, what's your tie to River Falls?
Sure. So my tie to River Falls is I was born and raised here. My parents moved to town before I was born. They both worked at the university. So I grew up in town, graduated from the high school in 2000, and then attended EWRF as well. So I've been a lifer. My wife is from here, her family's from here, and we didn't see a need to leave. So that's my tie. Current tie to town is working at the River Falls State Bank.
Yeah, and you are the president of River Falls State Bank. Mm-hmm. How did you start? What's your history at the bank?
Sure.
I know that you started at a young age, but tell us your story.
So I started right out of college. It was really the only adult job that I've had, I guess is the way I say it. I haven't updated a resume for 20 years now. So my tie was, it's kind of one of those where I'm guessing a lot of people have a similar story, but almost like a fluke in the way that it happened. So my last semester of college, I took an internship at Moody's car dealership. There was the person who did their like financing and all the paperwork was going on maternity leave, and they wanted to hire somebody, and it worked out where it was just for that last semester. And they reached out to the university. I was a senior looking for an internship at that time, so I did that. And then the Moody's have representation on our board at the bank, and they knew that there was going to be an opening. I was graduating from college, and I ended up applying later that year for the job. At that time was a lender, so that's how I got started, is as a lender. Learned there for probably 10, 11 years, and then we had a 2-year transition plan. Dan Davison was the president before me, so we had a 2-year transition from the time Dan announced he was going to retire until I took over. So,
wow.
And then here we are. So now Dan retired in 2018. We started that process in 2016, and now it's been 7 years since then.
Yeah. Wow.
So
it's amazing.
Yeah.
So the bank, I know, 75 years. This is the 75th anniversary. Just a week
October
or two?
3rd.
October 3rd.
October
okay.
3rd. Yep.
Yeah. Tell us more about that. Tell us,
Sure.
what do you know about the bank? The history of the bank?
Yeah. So most of what I know, I have either read or has been passed down to me. So bank celebrated 75 years. It was originally founded by a group of local business owners, and then they wanted another banking option in River Falls. At that time, I think First National was probably the only option that they had. There might have been a Farmers Credit Union, but I guess what is now Wisconsin Credit Union has existed long enough. I just don't know if they had a branch in River Falls at that time or not. So anyway, there were local business owners. They gathered up, and a group went around and approached other business owners. They approached farmers and sold shares of stock. So originally we had 650 shares of stock that were sold, and I think they were $100 each. So the bank was, if the math works, that $65,000 was the original investment in the bank, and then we still have, now 75 years later, I've still talked to a few shareholders who are in their 90s who were teenagers when their parents and aunts and uncles were approached by this group who were looking to have investors in the bank. So we've got second generation, some third generation ownership, but still independently owned, and mainly the same group that originally invested. Now that those shares have passed on, second, third generation. Got about 100 shareholders total, give or take. Mm-hmm. And again, most of those are not necessarily in River Falls now, but they have roots in some of the businesses, some of the farms that existed in River Falls at that time when they were going around approaching people about investing in the bank. So wow. We used to be located on the corner of Main and Elm, the building that most recently housed Lund's Fly Shop.
Yep.
And also, I think there's a tattoo parlor there. So that building used to have an entrance right on the corner, and that was where our bank originally was. If you go into the old fly shop building, the vault is still in there.
Oh, cool.
And if you walk by on the outside, you can see there's a night deposit where you could, after hours, you could open up a little slot and drop a deposit into it. So you can still see both of those. And then we have been in our current location since, I want to say it was like 1973, 74, roughly. The bank acquired that site, and there were some houses that I think got moved or taken down, and then the building was built there in the early 70s.
Wow.
So
it's very cool.
Yeah, so we started, I think after the first year, the bank was about, I think I've got a picture in my office. I think it was about 860,000 is how big the bank was, and now we're about 130 million in asset size. So,
oh my goodness.
So we've come quite a ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that growth, how many employees do you currently have?
Yeah, so right now I think the head count is 26. The full-time equivalent is probably closer to 22, 23.
Sure.
We usually have like 4 or 5 high school or part-time college students on staff. Usually we try to get people when they're maybe a sophomore, junior in high school, or same for college, and then have them for a couple years. It seems like that group kind of turns over every 2 to 3 years. And so right now we have 2 high school students that are sophomores and 3 college students that are part-time. And so then 21 full-time employees, I believe that would be.
Wow.
Maybe 22, I'd have to count.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that you hired as young as high school. That's
We've
cool.
had people that through the high school, there's a youth apprenticeship program, and we've hired people and we're registered with them so they can get credit for that youth apprenticip too. So
very
kind of a cool thing. We actually have fewer bodies. Like banking has changed over the years, where it's more account opening, operations support with debit card fraud, mobile banking, online. The loans are still roughly the same in terms of demand, but we have fewer tellers and just a lot fewer transactions over the 20 years I've been there. When I first started, we were running 3 tellers in the drive up, or 2.5 tellers. Like one was only there for part of the day. We had 5 full-time tellers in our lobby. Now we're down to 2 in the drive up and like 3, 2 or maybe 3 in the lobby any given day. So we actually have fewer bodies than we did probably 20 years ago.
Oh, sure.
Just because the way banking is, we've kind of had to move people to different department, or we just don't. There's not as many people coming into the bank. So
sure.
We've observed a change with how that looks.
Auto payment, right? Everyone.
Yeah. And it was going that way before, and then obviously when COVID happened, bank lobbies were closed for a little while, and people's habits really have adjusted since that time too.
Yeah. My next question is going to be a little bit towards the housing market.
Yep.
If you had a crystal ball, I have to ask since I'm an agent, right?
Yep.
If you had a crystal ball, what's kind of your prediction for mortgage rates as we're heading into the end of part of this year and next year?
Yeah, so we get asked this question a lot, and I guess the way I answer it is, we're happy to share what we think is kind of a general trend line for rates. It's hard to say on a day-to-day basis what those look like, or week-to-week basis. So, for example, mortgage rates 3 weeks ago were probably 0.5 point lower than they are today. Even though the Fed adjusted rates down, they're not exactly tied together, and so that's confusing. But the general trend that I would say, going back to like late summer, is we see rates coming down a little bit, but not drastically over the next year. Okay. So if mortgage rates were 7% in August, I would guess they get into the 6, maybe high 5 range. And right now they're probably around 6.5. Yeah. They've been as low as 6, but I would guess mid to high 5s at some point next year. And maybe going a little bit lower, but I don't see any big drop off personally where we're looking at something in the 4s. I'd be surprised if we're seeing something in the 4s next year.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
But we also tell people that if we had that crystal ball and really knew what was going on, all of us at the bank would have made enough money doing something else that we wouldn't have to be there. So.
Right.
Yeah. So, but I think generally down is the way we see it.
Yep.
And continuing that way, but nothing drastic where people are going to see something in the 4s or 3s anytime soon.
Yeah.
If at all.
A gradual trend down, not a big jump.
I don't see a big jump.
Yeah.
I mean, people are like the market. When I say people, I don't mean individual people. I mean the markets that like the 30-year mortgages are kind of tied to a 10-year treasury rate. So whatever trend that's moving is where the mortgage rates are going to move. So if you watch the 10-year treasury, you'll see a gradual trend down over the course of the last 4 or 5 months, but on a day-to-day or weekly basis, you might see 1/4 or 0.5% movement up or down. So we don't really look so much at those small, oh, hey, you told me it was going to go down, but now it's a 0.5 point up or a 1/4 point up. Look at the trend line over 3 months, 6 months, a year, and so that's kind of how we look at it. If a buyer is waiting to lock a rate, they're going to obviously be watching the day-to-day, but it matters a lot more to them that 1/4 point or 1/8 point up or down. Over time, we see there being a little bit of a downward trend.
Yep. So. Yeah. I also wanted to mention or ask you more about a new construction home loan. Mm-hmm. I know you guys do a fantastic one. I know from my own experience, but also as an agent that works with other builders in the area, I know you are top notch for that. Can you talk a little bit more about maybe what that process looks like?
Yeah, so we do a lot of new construction for builders, which would be a lot of times the builder taking out spec home loan and building a house and selling it to somebody after they're done, or getting a buyer along the way. There's some times where they have it sold and they take out the construction loan just to make things easier because they might already own the lot. We also work with a lot of individuals who either own a lot and hire a builder, or are going to buy a lot from a builder and have the builder build that house for them. A couple things that we do that I think make us a little bit unique is, one, a lot of banks are not willing to let somebody self-general a project. So if you have a background in the trades and you say, I'm going to self-general this, I'm not going to hire a builder, I'm going to hire all the subcontractors, but I'm going to manage it myself, a lot of banks won't deal with that because there can be problems. And thankfully we've been able to kind of manage that without any issue, letting people, we don't let anyone do it. We want to see that they have some experience and some background, but that's one thing that we've been able to do that a lot of people, who might work with another bank or a realtor that they are talking with says, no, you're not going to be able to do this with this bank. So that has been something that we have a little bit of flexibility on that seems to help people out. And then, just I guess maybe the builders in town that we've worked with have all done very good work over the years, and so that makes it easier for us to work with their customers a lot of times. And it's been a good business for us that way too, because you get a lot of referrals. Sometimes you get the end loan from people, and we want to keep the local builders as happy as we can too, because that's ultimately good for River Falls. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I know you guys support our community in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. I know one of the big ones is like the newer gymnastics facility, right?
Yep.
Can you talk a little bit about that? And
yeah. So going back to, I think this was the first year that I took over as bank president, 2018. Kurt and Julie Bruns are very active. Julie's been, I think, on the board, either the treasurer or the president of the gymnastics for years now. And they've got a few others that have been involved for a long time. Julie and Kurt reached out and just said, hey, the gymnastics owns a site. We're going to be looking to build a building. They had been renting for the program I think dates back to the 80s, so they've been renting different locations since that time, and had done a good job of building up the program. Obviously, the high school success continued in that, where I don't know if you've ever signed either of your kids up for gymnastics, but it is hard to get in. Like, people have a hard time because there's so much demand for the classes.
I would wait up till midnight so I could get my kids registered. I'm sure you had to do the same thing.
Yep, they changed it to 9 o'clock in the morning now. So I think the midnight was making it tough on people. So now it's a 9 a.m.
Okay.
But I have stopped a bank board meeting so that I could complete the gymnastics registration. So
it's important.
Anyway, Kurt and Julie both reached out and just said this was going to be coming. Would we be interested in having conversations? And I said sure. We had never done anything that large in terms of what they were looking at for a donation, but the organization was so solid, and they had all their ducks in a row. They owned the land. They had to save up a bunch of money as an organization. They had a history of performance in terms of the program and in terms of their revenue, that it wasn't like, hey, we're just going to do this from scratch, and so we're projecting everything. They could take the hard numbers that they had for years and years, and when we looked at it, it made sense for them to take out the financing to build their site, and they needed to raise so much money to get them over that hump. We contributed half of that as a naming rights sponsorship for the building, and they were able to go out in the community and raise the existing money or the rest of the money that they needed. So so we were happy to partner with them and see that facility go up, see it open, and now see what. Again, if you drive by there, it's always full. The classes are always full. I want to say they run 500 to 600 kids through each of the sessions that they do. I think there's 5 sessions in a year, and I think they run 500 plus kids through each of those sessions. So, to have that type of impact, we were happy to partner with that organization, and it's worked out to be a really good deal for us too. So. Yeah,
it's a great facility, and really wonderful program that. Yeah. It's fun to see them grow and feed into the high school program and see that their success there.
Most communities, and I'm not super into it, but I do have some information that like most communities would have a gymnastics program they think would be for profit. So somebody owns it and runs it for profit. I think it's very unique that we have that successful of a program where people are still volunteering, and not running it as a business where somebody is making a profit on it.
Yeah.
So, that very lucky that people continue to devote the time to it.
Yeah. Well, it's something special, that's for sure.
Yep.
And I know you yourself, Todd, are super involved in our community, and you do so much. So can you touch on some of the...
Yeah. So I've had a pretty wide range of involvement in community, and a lot of that comes from just I knew growing up here, attending college here, that I didn't say I want to work in a bank or I need to work in a bank. It wasn't like I went to school just for that one thing. I was looking more for, I would like to be in a job that allows me to be involved in the community, live in the community, and be active and do the types of things that I want to do with my life. So the bank was a fit there, and thankfully they're supportive of being involved. I'm the co-treasurer right now with Scott Gavin for our Lions Club in town, and I've been involved there for about 10 years, recently as the co-treasurer, but been involved in the duck race that we do each year for fundraising, which has actually turned out to be a pretty fun event. The first year I joined Lions is when they started talking about doing the duck race, and I was like, I don't know what this is. They had done a brat stand for years and years, and people were getting kind of tired of all the work that goes in and planning that goes into that. So somebody had the idea for a duck race, and now we've probably raised close to $200,000 from that over 9 years, and so the Lions Club has been one, and I guess the thing I'm passionate about with that is that it's a service organization. So any money we raise goes back into the community or goes to Lions causes, either at the state level or at the national level too. So I'm really passionate about the Lions. recently joined the girls basketball board.
Oh,
so I've got 2
awesome.
daughters that play basketball, and they try to get representation from a bunch of different age groups, and they were having a few people transition out. So they were looking for people with kids on the younger end, and going to be involved in that now. One of my first involvements was with the free clinic. That organization has existed for probably close to 20 years, 15 to 20 years, and I was the treasurer there for a little while, and so I've gotten to see quite a few different. There's a pretty wide range between healthcare, between a girls basketball board or the Lions Club, and be involved in a few different things there, and I guess. Going back to Don Richards, when he was the mayor, when I first started at the bank, he came in and I can't remember how it came up, but he had met with me and said, hey, we're looking for people to be on the plan commission. You're working in town now, young, energetic. And so I got involved in that too. And it was interesting to see how the city government works and just to see what that was like too. That was not an elected position, but you're appointed by the mayor, and got to learn a lot about how things worked in community there too. So.
Yeah. Wow. Awesome. So involved. Well,
yeah.
Well, it's great. I mean.
Yeah. I guess that's the thing. I think we can kind of take for granted sometimes that we have things like the gymnastics club or the girls basketball or youth football, whatever it might be. But it takes people to say, parents a lot of times, to say, hey, I'm going to spend some time, working to be involved in this, and it's not lost on me that without people doing those types of things, you don't have the programs.
Yep, it's very true.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I guess I was trying to think if there was something I wanted to say, but along the lines of the volunteer or with the bank's involvement in the community. I think that we're fortunate here in River Falls to have a whole bunch of businesses that are active and people that care enough about the community to step up and put their time in. So I don't have experience living other places, but from the people that we see at the bank, the people that I talk to who moved to River Falls and why they moved to River Falls, a lot of those things are because of the opportunities, the proximity of the Twin Cities, the sense of community, and I mean that's ultimately what I wanted out of it. Living in River Falls, working in River Falls, and feel fortunate that I get to live that every day too. Yeah,
it's pretty incredible.
Yeah,
I know. I come from a bigger suburb, and that there wasn't a sense of community there. We live in a gym for sure.
So I feel that way, and again, haven't gone out and lived other places, but I talk to enough people that say, River Falls is a great place, and I certainly feel that way too. So I feel lucky that way. And I guess the only thing I would do is encourage people to just keep that in mind as much as they can when it comes to where they do their shopping, where they do their banking, where they do their insurance work, whatever it might be, just to continue to support those businesses so that we can continue to have them and have them support the community.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join me, and we'll see you on the next episode of Beyond the Falls.
Thank you.